Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so much for dropping by. Here it is, another day of life. Here we have another day of life in these amazing bodies on this amazing planet. Now, of course, it's June 2020. This amazing planet, maybe not so much the planet, but our human civilization we've built on top of this beautiful planet is in a bit of trouble. So it can be hard to remember that life is a gift and that this planet, this beautiful divine planet, which Bruno Groening called Mother Earth, is unspeakably beautiful. In this time in which our technology or the culture we've built on top of nature, on top of Mother Earth, is falling apart or struggling, or there's different ways to label it. That's not so important. I have been so drawn to nature, so drawn to reflect on the beautiful, beautiful place that truly is our home. As you can see, I'm broadcasting from a room. I have a home, but really what I have is a house. And my true home is this body on this planet. And sadly, I think most of us as human beings have forgotten that this body is a gift from God, and our real home is nature. And as Bruno Groening said, we need nature. I'm paraphrasing here, but over and over and over, he pointed out that as human beings, we need nature. And he once said that's the problem with human beings. They've followed the artificial path, not the natural one, not the divine one. So let's call ourselves back to nature, back to God. And Bruno Groening made many references that while we separate, God and nature, that in some mysterious way, which I personally don't fully claim to understand, God and nature are two sides of the same coin. Now, some people, use such statements to deny any kind of higher power or anything spiritual. That's not the way Bruno Groening meant it at all. That's a profound mystery. He said nature is God. But he also, pointed out that God is our loving Father. He spoke of a loving Father God, and he spoke of Mother Earth and nature as God. So it's something for us to really take to heart and reflect on and see if we can see if we can come to understand what he meant by what a profound statement that nature is God. But maybe it's a lot simpler than that. Maybe we just need to spend time in nature and open ourselves up. And just look right now as I'm speaking, I'm looking out the window. And just open ourselves and look at nature. And let it explain to us this profound mystery. Bruno Groening said, there is no life without God. God is life, Leben, itself. Leben does mean life, but it also means existence, being, aliveness. It's a profound word. It's a profound thing to think about, that God is aliveness itself, vibrant aliveness. One of the simple things that Bruno Groening pointed out is that God, life, this vibrant aliveness, is available to help us in every aspect of our lives. How? Through sending divine, natural energy that we can very easily pick up and take up. So let's do so now. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards, back, if possible, in a relaxed upright position, not leaning against your chair, if possible. And close your eyes. Now really put everything evil, the illness, put it aside behind you. Give it over to God, to Bruno. Then Bruno said, focus your entire attention on healing. And then ask to receive the healing stream, this divine energy, and observe your body. Noticing what you feel. Having the will, the intention to take this energy in. If your mind's running all over the place, you can follow your breath, repeat a short prayer or mantra. To anyone who's new, a very warm welcome. So this is about the spiritual teachings of Bruno Groening, one of the most Christ-like beings I've ever heard of. And one of the principal things he taught is that we can absorb a healing life energy. So I invite you to just continue observing your body, having the intention to take this energy in throughout this entire gathering. So I was just tuning in, and that's what he called it, the receiving the energy, tuning in. I was just marveling that right now live, there's 3 of us here live, and who knows how many hundreds, thousands of people right now, right in this moment, all around the world are tuning in. Let's just say there's 1,000. What an amazing, amazing thing. There are 1,000 people opening themselves up to receive receive a divine current, divine energy, an energy that actually heals. And this is so important for us as individuals and us as a race. Why? Because according to Bruno Groening, evil, the energy of evil, is which he also spoke of as disorder, disease, is the root cause of all of our problems as individuals and as a race. So here we are in these bodies on this planet, and each and every one of us wants happiness, health. We want a good life. We want to, we each might have different definitions of what good life means, but we all want basically a happy, healthy, harmonious life. I call it the 3 H's: happy, healthy, and harmonious. But why don't we? Each one of us has challenges. I don't know a human being who doesn't have challenges. And I spent a lot of my life trying to get rid of those challenges so I could have that happy, healthy, and harmonious. However, the one thing that I never, so I would do an exercise program, I would do journaling, would do counseling, I'd go to the gym, at different points I tried psychiatric medication, read spiritual books, went to church, went to a temple, did Tai Chi. All these things are seeking that happiness, health, and harmony. I think all those things are positive. I have some concerns about psychiatric meds, but I think they have their time and place in case of a crisis. But that's just my 2 cents. Forget my 2 cents. But so basically what I'm saying is I tried all these different things to take care of these different problems so I could have a good life, so I could be happy and healthy and have a satisfying life. But the one thing I never did was to ask myself, what's causing all these things? I would say, well, I'm not happy. Why? And then I would say, oh, well, I have some negative thinking. So I would do some things to work with my negative thinking. And I'd say, oh, well, I don't have a partner. So I'd go look for a partner. Oh, well, I have this health illness. So health problems. So I'd go and take care of that. But I never asked myself, is there an underlying reason or cause to all of these problems? And Bruno Groening, as have many sages, teachers throughout the ages, says, yes, there is. And this is so important because otherwise we're just treating symptoms. Bruno Groening said the root cause of all of our problems is disorder, dis-ease. We'll say disorder and evil. And that's why he said, don't treat the illness. If you treat the illness, you're not treating the cause of it. Now, it's okay if you feel guided to go to the doctor to do a particular thing for a particular problem, then do it. That's between you and God. However, my understanding of what Bruno Groening taught is that it will not ultimately solve your ultimate problem. The ultimate problem that all of us face as human beings is evil. So let's firmly separate ourselves from all evil, really asking Bruno Groening's help in this endeavor. Please, God, please, Bruno, I want to be free of all evil. Please take it. Help me let go of it. Help me to be willing to let go of it. And then take in the good. So let's spend a little more time in silence, observing our body, having the will, the intention to take this energy in. Noticing what you feel. Recognizing that healing can happen in an instant, and it can take some time. Bruno Groening said, I call you to the great turnaround. German word, I currently am not remembering it, doesn't just mean turnaround. It also means radical change. It also means reversal. So, as you can see from what I just shared, that any problem we have is just a symptom of evil, of disorder. Bruno called us to a completely different way of looking at life. Not only that, he called us to a completely different way of life. He called us as individuals, but humanity as a whole, to have faith in God, to really put God first, and then to live in harmony with nature. To do this successfully, what needs to happen is we need to free ourselves from evil and seek to be freed from all evil. Part of this process is the recognition that we cannot free ourselves. Bruno Groening said, we cannot raise ourselves up or exalt ourselves. Only God can. He said, if you adopt the thought, I want to be healthy, then ask God for help. Humans are too weak on their own. Bruno Groening said, there is no life without God. So what do all these things point towards? They point towards a kind of humility, a recognition that in life we need God, and to overcome our difficulties, we need God. Bruno Groening put it very simply. But I let you know that nobody can be helped without our Lord God. It doesn't really get much clearer than that. But I let you know that nobody can be helped without our Lord God. To be helped on any level of life, we need God. Now, that's not to say, for example, let's say you have a tight back and you do a stretch to help your back. Okay, where's the God in that? Someone just did a stretch. They received help. But the question is, did they really receive help? Or did they have a temporary decrease of a symptom? Now, again, I never discourage anyone from taking any positive action in their life. And I love stretching. I love yoga. I do it. And what caused the tension in the first place? Bruno Groening pointed out that what causes tension is anxiety or fear. And he said that fear or anxiety is from evil and is evil. So, first of all, if we don't remove the anxiety, and he didn't say that tension was always anxiety, but that could be a primary cause of it. But if, let's say it was anxiety, well, if you don't remove the anxiety, it's going to show up in another negative way. And let's say that tension in the back wasn't caused by anxiety. It's still a symptom of of evil. So until we get out the root cause, it's just going to come back in another way. And we human beings, and I struggle with this because I live in this town where there's like all these different spiritual things and all these healthy things and holistic things. And um, there's like all these things to do to get better and heal and grow. So I kind of have this deeply ingrained habit of not treating the root cause. This is most, we as human beings, we've tried pretty much everything but God. We've tried technology. Um, I mean, really, and we've tried, really, that's kind of what we've tried. We've moved away from nature and moved away from God, and we've tried technology and everything but sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Meaning we've sought, and I'm not putting down sex. I'm not putting down music, and you know, certain drugs is a whole issue which I'll leave aside. That's a very personal, individual thing. Um, but what Bruno Groening said in essence is that human beings, in essence, we've tried everything but living close to nature and being connected to God, and we've sought happiness, and we've sought the good life everywhere except where it is, God and nature. And here in the June 2020, I believe we're seeing with the current world health situation, we're just seeing all we're seeing is just a symptom of that, of all this seeking in the wrong place. Why? Because all the things we've done, um, it's not that every technology is bad or that everything human beings have done is bad, but it's missed the root. It's missed evil, removing evil, and it's missed seeking God. So it was bound to fail. And then over time, things just get worse and worse. So let's reflect on all this and take in some more. Hopefully, people are continuing to take this in throughout the entire gathering. Continuing to observe the body, continuing to take in this natural life energy, noticing what you feel. Here's a quote from Bruno Groening. It depends on the person himself, how he takes care of himself, of his body. If he takes the divine power into himself, if he stays within divine guidance, then he will have protection. But if he leaves this guidance, he won't have it. He'll be without any guidance. If a man does not stay where he can be guided, where he gets power, he will be powerless. He will slide into the depths, and he will have to be led back to where the connection is, where he can absorb the energies within himself again. So much in one little paragraph. That's from the book Wisdom of Life, Volume 1, page 41. So first of all, Bruno said, it depends on the person himself, how he takes care of himself, of his body. If he takes the divine power into himself. So taking care of our body, according to Bruno Groening, is our first duty. The logic behind this is sound. Everything we do here on this planet is dependent on these beautiful bodies. How to take care of the body? Well, as I was saying, there are many theories, many practices, many systems of how to take care of the body. What Bruno Groening is talking about is taking in the energy of God into our body. If you want to do other things to take care of your body, so be it. My understanding of what Bruno Groening taught is that's the most important way to take care of your body. If you have health problems, there are other principles that need to be applied, such as faith and watching your thoughts and asking for help. And my understanding is the number one principle for how to heal your body is to take in divine energy. And he points out that it's not just about taking in the energy, it's about, he calls it here, divine guidance. Elsewhere, he calls it divine connection. So we have to stay connected to God. Why? Because here on this earth, evil is all around us and seeking constantly to pull us off the good path. So if we're not listening to God, we're listening to evil. It's a little hardcore, but that's my understanding of what Bruno taught is there really isn't neutrality. We're either connected to God or we're connected to evil. So, if someone disconnects from God, which we all have to some extent, and we as a human race certainly have, what happens? Bruno says, he'll be without any guidance. If a man does not stay where he can be guided, where he gets power, he will be powerless and he will slide into the depths. So here's what I'm talking about. If we're not staying connected to God, we're connecting to evil and we're going on a downward path, a downward direction. And certainly that's the direction humanity as a whole was headed on while Bruno Groening was in his body, and I would argue is still headed on. Maybe some individuals are on the divine, natural, upward path, but as a race, we're headed on the downward path. And Bruno says he slides into the depths. And I consider about to share one of the key parts of Bruno Groening's teachings. Bruno said he will slide into the depths and he will have to be led back to where the connection is, where he can absorb the energies within himself again. Now, let me back up. I'm going to read a little more. But if he leaves this guidance, he won't have it. He'll be without any guidance. If a man does not stay where he can be guided, where he gets power, he will be powerless and he will be slide down into the depths and he will have to be led back to where the connection is, where he can absorb the energies within himself again. Here, Bruno was adamant that if someone's gone far enough down, they actually can't pull themselves out. They need what he called a helping hand, or here what he describes as they need to be led back. They're literally so far down. The way I think of it is so covered in evil that they're not able to receive the divine connection directly by themselves. They need a spiritual helper. Bruno Groening said he was one such helper. He also said that Christ was such a being. He spoke highly of the yogis of India, and I don't know his view on other religions or other um, spiritual traditions or other helpers. But the point is that until we're back in deep connection with God, we need a spiritual helper. Until we thoroughly freed ourselves from evil, we need a being such as Bruno, such as Christ, to help us have the divine connection, to help us take in the divine energy. Now, Bruno Groening said that the ultimate goal was for people to stand. He said, I want the friends to get to the place where they can stand on their own 2 feet, where they can directly absorb the energy themselves. That's the goal. Until that point, we need a friend such as Bruno to help us take in the energy. So let's reflect on all of this. That moment by moment, we need to seek connection with God. And that if that's not easy, and if we're not able to free ourselves of evil, of burdens, then until that day, we need a helper such as Bruno Groening. Asking Bruno Groening or your helper for help. part of the great reversal that Bruno called us to was the remembrance that, as he said, spirit rules over matter. We tend to think that the universe just runs on its own based on physical laws as defined by science. Bruno Groening was adamant that this is not how reality works at all. That there is a great reality, which he called God, the good, Leben, life, existence, being, harmony, that is infinitely more powerful than what we think of as the laws of physics or chemistry or biology. And that through tuning into that great reality, to our maker, to the source of the laws of chemistry, biology, etc., that matter can literally be rearranged in ways that violate what we think of as, and every time I say laws, I put it in quotes, laws of science. I had a very dear friend named Brian who had a cavity. He went to the dentist and they did an x-ray, and lo and behold, he had a cavity. So he set up an appointment to have the cavity filled, but he is very familiar with Bruno and his teachings, and he's like, oh, I would so prefer to heal this instead of having a filling put in. So he did a lot of tuning in. That's the practice we're doing right now of receiving this life energy. He really gave the cavity away. He gave it over to Bruno and to God. He really took on faith and trust that, as Bruno said, nothing is incurable. Nothing is impossible. Which I think is a very direct way of saying what it's written that Christ said, that what's impossible for man is possible for God, right? It's impossible for a human being to sort of wish away a cavity or using material means to make a cavity just disappear. But as it's written, Christ said, what's impossible for human beings is possible for God, for this great reality I've been speaking of. So he just tuned in a lot, really deepened his faith. And then, the day came for the appointment and he said, I think it's healed. And the dentist, I'm sure, looked at him like he was crazy. In the medical model, in the scientific laws, cavities don't heal. A cavity is a rotten tooth. The teeth don't regrow in the medical view. But my friend was like, yeah, I think it's healed. I want another x-ray. And they took an x-ray and the cavity was gone. This is someone I know personally, someone I know quite well. This is not someone 1,000 years ago in a distant land. This is someone who lives in my town and is a friend of mine. He's not a special person. We're all special, but he's not a magical guru or spiritual person. He's just someone on the spiritual path, just like you and me. And if it can happen for him, it can happen for any of us. I've had an amazing, I don't know whether to call it help or healing over the last month and a half with this whole current world health situation. 4 times now, I've started to get cold symptoms. So since things got serious with the quote pandemic, as some people are calling it, I just see it as a lot of evil. Based on the teachings of Bruno Groening, I just see it as evil run rampant. Right when it got serious here in my country, I started to get cold symptoms. And of course, all sorts of negative thoughts started to come, like, oh, you've got it, you're going to die. And I said, no, I don't accept those negative thoughts. I don't accept this cold. I don't accept the idea that I've taken on. I've taken on COVID-19. I do not accept that. Gave it over to Bruno. I asked Bruno Groening for help. I tuned in to the healing energy. I did a lot, actually. I did extra tuning in, extra Einstellung. And within a day, all the symptoms were gone. I was very grateful. And then about a week later, I started to get some cold symptoms. And I said, but this time the negative thoughts really came because the symptoms were stronger. Oh, you've definitely got it. Oh, you're going to die. I said, no, I do not have COVID-19. I am not sick. I gave it away to Bruno Groening. I took in the divine energy and I just said no. And the thoughts kept coming this time. And I said, no, I do not accept that. And then the next day, the symptoms were worse. And I firmly said, no, I do not accept this. And of course, there was all sorts of fear trying to come at me. No, I don't accept that either. I had to fight a little bit this time to stay in faith, to not take in thoughts of fear. And then on the third day, the symptoms had decreased, and by the fourth day, they were gone. This happened, and then about 3 weeks later, again, I started to get cold symptoms. Same thing. I said, no, I don't accept this. It wasn't a full-blown cold, just, stuffy nose, sore throat. No, I don't accept this. I gave it away, took in the energy, and it went away again. Now, what would have happened if I had said yes to the fear? I would have freaked out. The thoughts would have come all day. Oh, yes, I've got a cold. Oh, yes, now I'm going to catch COVID. Oh, yeah, I'll probably die. Crazy, horrific, scary thoughts like that. It very well would have probably made me sick. That's how evil operates. It sends negative thoughts. Bruno Groening pointed out that we're just like a radio antenna, that we receive not just energy, but we also receive thoughts. And then we need to sit with every thought and determine, is it a good thought? Is it not a good thought? So I'm very grateful to God and to Bruno Groening for these. Again, I don't know whether to call them helps or healings because I don't, you can call them healings. I was starting to get sick 3 times in the last month and a half. It's healed. So I've got a couple comments, so I'll take a peek here and see what people have said. Hello, Magdalena. Thanks for saying hi. Malin, wow, long time no see you. Welcome. Krista. Hello, Krista. Welcome. Yes, Malin, never be afraid. Here's what Bruno Groening said on the topic of fear. One of my favorite quotes of his, if I can find it real quick. This is from Powers of the Spirit, page 77. I must also point out how damaging it is to someone's health to live in constant agitation. Because of this, tension, this is not exactly about fear, but fear is certainly one of the most powerful forms of agitation. Because of this, tension develops in the body at every point that it can, and this hinders the circulation of the blood in such a way that the organs do not receive an adequate supply and so become debilitated. And this can also be the seed of future serious afflictions. When you look at this way, you can understand why I keep on saying that all illnesses have spiritual causes and that they come about through the degradation of a person's inner power of defense. So, according to Bruno Groening, agitation leads to tension, and then tension sets the stage for illness. So, and how does agitation come about? Through negative thinking. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. So today we looked at a few things, like the need to be mindful of our thoughts, the need for us as individuals, and for us as a race to turn back to God, to turn back to being connected to God, not just turning back to religion, but to turn back to the actual connection to God. It's interesting, the Latin word that religion comes from means to reconnect or relink. That's what true religion is, being connected, being linked to God. We looked at the eye and the need to follow, to be mindful of our thoughts and to take in this healing life energy, and that is the primary way to take care of our body. And that while all these different things people do, such as exercise and diet and yoga and supplements and herbs, and maybe even medication, can be helpful in the short term, but don't actually get to the root cause of an illness or a burden or a problem. That the root cause of it is evil. And to overcome that evil, we need divine help. Until we're able to free ourselves from that evil on our own, which is, Bruno Groening said, his end goal for us. To be freed of all evil and to be able to directly receive the divine current ourselves, we need a spiritual helper, such as Bruno Groening, such as Christ, who can help us take this energy in and can help us on the path of being freed from evil. So I'm very grateful to everyone who joined in today, and we'll close with a little more sitting. And Krista, wow. Oh, you're so well. Oh, that just makes me so happy, Krista. When I first found these teachings, my body was falling apart. I had 6 or 7 serious medical conditions, and I wondered if I was 37 years young, and I wondered if I was going to make it to 38. My body was falling apart, and they have all healed, and I'm still very much alive 8 years later. So welcome to this channel. At the end of this, I'll post a link to my website, which has an overview of these teachings and a whole page that goes into the instructions of how to tune in. And Bruno Groening is he's a fierce helper. You can ask him for help with anything. This was kind of strange. When I first heard about this teaching, people were like, I asked Bruno for help and this happened. I asked Bruno for help and that happened. I was like, what are these crazy people talking about? Bruno Groening's dead. His body died in 1959. How can someone who's not in their body help? Well, I can't explain the metaphysics of how that works, but I can tell you that it works. Don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself. So I could just talk for hours and hours and hours about Bruno Groening. That's what this channel is. Me talking for hours and hours and hours about Bruno Groening, and encouraging people to tune in, to take in this healing energy. When I first found this, I would sometimes tune in for 3 hours a day because I had to. I had such serious eye problems. I just had to sit with my eyes closed. So, so a very warm welcome, Krista. Feel free to, after you've looked at some of the videos, if you have some questions, feel free to post them. So now let's close. Let's close how we began. Giving away any illnesses, any burdens, giving them to Bruno Groening, to a helper you trust, or to God. Really separating ourselves from the idea that we even have an illness. Any life situations we're worried about, placing them in God's hands or in Bruno Groening's hands. Letting go of fear and taking on faith and trust. You know, there's that old song, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. I don't disagree, but I would say what the world needs now is faith. What all of us need is faith in a higher power and connection to it. So let's take on faith. And now we'll close. Sitting for a few minutes, having taken on faith, given away our burdens and illnesses, and then observing the body, noticing what you feel, having the intention, the will to receive this energy. Observing the body. Taking in the good. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. We'll be doing this again real soon. And I, of course, encourage people to tune in every day, if not multiple times a day, to charge up our batteries so we can not only fend off evil, but so that we can live life with lots of energy and joy. To anyone else who's new, a warm welcome. Warm welcome to Krista. I wish everyone here a beautiful morning, afternoon, and evening. Take care. Much love.